Self-tape auditions are the norm for first round auditions to get into drama school. But what happens when you are recalled and then you have to transition from doing self-tapes in your own bedroom, in your own time, with nobody looking at you, through to standing in front of a full-blown audition panel right there, right in your face? What do? It's very different. There is a shift that takes place that is confronting and could potentially get in the way of you doing your best work in those recalls. And seeing as we are very much in the throes of recall stages for 2025, I thought it would be a great opportunity to look at the biggest factors at play from transitioning from self-tape auditions through to in-person recall rounds. So let's get into it. The first big thing that you will notice is that you are likely going to be more nervous. Whenever we audition live, nerves definitely come into play. You don't have as much control over the situation and your attention is going towards not being judged and not making mistakes. So naturally, we feel more nervous. And whilst audition nerves are totally normal and can actually be an indication of you going towards something that you really want, that you really care about, it is important to not let the nerves hijack your audition altogether. So you are going to focus on lowering your breath, slowing your thoughts down, and taking the attention away from judgment, and you are going to place it more on collaboration, sharing, and creatively engaging with your audition panel. Because remember, you enjoy this. So don't let the nerves convince you that you don't. Now, it can also help to do something physical prior to going into the audition room. Doing like a full body shake, jumping up and down, running on the spot can help to kind of disperse the nervous energy or get rid of it in some way. Then you feel like you're actually more in control of your body, more in control of your breath, and probably a little less nervous. You can't take all day. Unlike your self-tapes, an in-person audition has a time factor attached to it. You have an allocated time in the room for you to cover all of your speeches, redirection, interview questions, and a whole host of other things. So you cannot take as much time to get through your speeches as you do when you are self-taping. You don't have time to absorb yourself into the world of the character. You just kind of have to jump in and go for it. You don't have the ability to go back and repeat it if you make a mistake. And there is a limit to the grace period that you are given to get in the zone. Now, this does not mean that you rush yourself. And it certainly doesn't mean start before you're ready. No, but it does mean that you cannot take half an hour to get your first line out. That's just ridiculous. My suggestion is to rehearse the whole audition from start to finish, including going into the room, introducing yourself, introducing your speeches, going through both of the speeches, doing some potential redirection, maybe answer a few interview questions. Doing some dry runs or some mock auditions can be really beneficial. And if you happen to not have anybody that you can do that kind of stuff with, hi, I'm here. I do that because I am an audition coach, and why would I not do that? Of course I do, so get in touch. Details are below. Come, do the thing. Another shift that you make for in-person auditions is you get to talk to a real person. Yes, I know, a real life human being. Shocker. Crazy balls. Unbeliever trousers. I mean, really, a real person? Mental. For your self-tapes, you were likely looking at a little spot on the wall, like a little bit of blue tack or a sticky note or maybe a picture, something like that, but you were just kind of gazing off probably into nothingness and pretending that that was a person that you were actually working to affect, to shout at, or get them to fall in love with you, or whatever was going on in your speech. But now you have real people in front of you, so use them, because why would you jump over an additional imaginative hurdle of imagining a person there when there is actually a person there? An audition panel in a recall round usually consists of a minimum of 2 people and probably a maximum of like 5 or 6. And a lot of the time they actually have recent graduates or third years or second years who are on the course actually on the audition panel for the very reason of having speeches directed at them. So what you are going to do, listen carefully, what you are going to do is when they say, okay, great, go for it, do your speech, you are going to ask, is it okay if I direct my speech to a member of the panel? Now, you are going to be prepared for the answer yes, and you're going to be prepared for the answer no. If they say yes, they will likely say, yes, of course, we have Grace here, who's in our 3rd year, and she is here for you to direct your speech to, so you can use Grace. And Grace would be like, hey, and be really enthusiastic, because a lot of the time the graduates or the 3rd years or whoever, if they're sitting on audition panels to have speeches fired at them, they're going to give you stuff, they're going to offer things and do do reactions and be really, really generous. So use them. And if they don't have one of them, you can probably choose a member of the panel, so choose somebody that seems like the least scary and the most friendly, or the most gender appropriate or age appropriate or whatever for your speech. Now, they might answer no, and that will be to do with they don't want to distract you because they will be looking down and up writing notes and they don't want to distract you, so they will say no, it's okay, don't use a member of the panel, just pin yourself on the wall somewhere and go for it like that. Great, you're prepared for that because that's how you've been doing your self-tapes. But if you have the option, use a person. They're great. So to prepare for this eventuality, you are going to find a person in your own life and you are going to speak your speech at their faces. And you're going to get used to it actually being given to a person. You're also going to practice it to the wall. That is fine. Alternate so that when you go into the audition room, it's not so much of a shock for you. And the last thing to note when you are shifting from self-tape auditions through to in-person recall rounds is vocal and physical shifts. Your self-tapes were likely shot in a small room in your house, either a bedroom or a living room or whatever, but probably a lot smaller than the studio spaces that they will be using in these recall rounds to do the recall auditions. Studio spaces tend to be much larger, they're used for movement or they're used for voice or whatever. They might be slightly echoey, but they will be somewhat of a bit of a shock to you if you have been used to just doing the material in a small confined space. So the things that you need to take into account is that the vocal energy that it takes to fill that room will be more than using the vocal energy in your bedroom. Same with physical stuff. Because you have an audience that's slightly further away, it doesn't mean that you have to amplify, it just means that you need to take into account that you've got a bigger space to fill, that you've got a bigger space that you have access to. So use that space in accordance with what's going on in your speech. And when you are in your audition, when they say, great, okay, take your time, begin your speech when you're ready, actually listen to the room. I know that sounds weird, but just take into account the acoustics of the room. How much space do you think that it requires for you to fill that? And then go from there. So there you go. They are my top tips for anybody who is heading into a recall round, whether that is first stage recall, second stage, final round recall, and they're doing them in person. You don't want to have that god-awful shock of doing nothing but self-tapes and then getting into an audition room and crumbling because you don't quite know how to account for this new environment. So get some practice in ahead of time, and if you want to do a mock audition and kind of run through what that is going to be like, then all of the details for working with me are down below. But in the meantime, make sure that you like this video, that you subscribe to the channel, that you tell loads of people who you know have got recall auditions coming up about this particular video, so that we can all learn and all get into drama school and all have a brilliant old time going to drama school for the next 3 years. Huzzah! But in the meantime,